Good afternoon.
Okay, hi. Hello, Mr. Secretary. Thank you for rushing over. I'm glad you're safe.
My apologies for being late. I just wrapped up my first cabinet meeting. Let me tell you, what an experience. I'm glad to be here with you. I'm excited to take part in this.
Thank you. So we ought to get started and we'll all try to abbreviate what we were going to say because we were scheduled to end at 5 o'clock, which is probably part of most of our schedules. So let me thank you for getting on and let me thank our students for being here. And Derek Johnson, who everyone knows is the head of the NAACP, is our moderator. So he's going to open up. Derek.
Thank you, Leader Schumer. And I want to thank everyone who's joining us today. Prior to the pandemic, we were facing a true crisis of student loan debt, over $1.6 trillion in student loan debt. And much of that debt has been incurred by first generation students and other individuals from moderate to low income families. The purpose of this discussion is to talk about the harm student loan debt is having on us and how we should move forward. I am pleased to moderate this panel, something that I'm not used to, but it's a star-studded panel with Leader Chuck Schumer, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Secretary Cardona, and 4 of our special guests who are students. I want to start by introducing Sabrina Calazan, Daryl Holman, Taneva Monroe, and Kendrick Harrison. But before I go any further, I want to ask Senator Schumer and Senator Warren if they will open us up with brief remarks.
Well, thank you, Derek. And I thank everyone, particularly a shout out to Sabrina and Daryl and Taneva and Kendrick for taking their time to tell us their stories. You're the most important people on this Zoom, actually, because you're the people we're trying to, you represent millions and millions of people that that Senator Warren and I and many others are trying to help. You know, in America, we always believed that college was a ladder up, but with student debt, it can be an anchor weight down. My father was working class. He was an exterminator. I struggled to get through college, but when I got out, I didn't have any debt. College was much less expensive and you could work and make a decent salary and you didn't with debt. Now, so many people have a mountain of debt on their shoulders. Americans owe $1.7 trillion. 9 million students, former students are in default on their loans. Gets worse and worse and worse. And it just holds everybody back. It holds you back from deciding what path to pursue, to buy a car, to do so many other kinds of things. And it holds our economy back. And one of the amazing things about this is the racial wealth gap. Black and brown communities are shouldering a larger burden of the student debt. The average Black borrower owns more than 100% of their loan balance, even after 12 years of college. So this is not only a problem for the whole country, for the economy, and for students past and present and their families, but it's also part of the reason that we have such a division between Black and white and wealth and income. We want to solve all that. And we believe that President Biden legally has the authority to cancel up to $50,000 in student debt through executive action, a flick of a pen. That means Sabrina and Daryl and Kendrick and Taneva. You don't have to go through Congress. You don't have to worry about all that. He's done some good things, the president has, but we'd like him to go further. And we know, particularly now with COVID-19 ravaging the economy, so many people out of work, so many people having even more difficulty to pay their debt, that we ought to go do this right now. So for so many reasons, we'd like him to do it. And your testimony is going to really help us convince everybody in the country to do it. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Senator Warren, who has been such a strong leader. And she was a professor before she was a senator. And she's like, I don't know if you guys remember Joe Friday, but he'd say, just the facts, ma'am. Well, she's got just the facts, ma'am.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Leader. And I want to thank everybody for being on this call, especially Sabrina and Daryl and Taneva and Kendrick for being here today and sharing your stories. And also a very special thank you to you, Secretary Cardona and Leader Schumer and Derek Johnson. You're all good partners in this fight, and I'm grateful for the work that you do on behalf of borrowers. The conversation we're having today is powerfully important. Canceling student loan debt is a matter of justice, racial justice, economic justice, and generational justice. Student loan debt is a big contributor to the racial wealth gap. Black and brown students borrow more money to go to college, and they borrow more money while they're in college, and they have a harder time paying it off after they graduate. People whose families cannot write a check for them to go to college have fewer opportunities now than those who were born into wealth. And young people today cannot take advantage of low-cost state school tuitions the way I did a generation ago. Today, 2 out of every 3 students graduating from state schools have to go into debt to make it there. But we are here today to go beyond the numbers and hear your personal stories, to make this issue about real people who are living with this burden. We want to hear about your experiences with debt and how it affects your lives and your families, so that we can better understand what's at stake in these policy debates over whether the federal government should cancel student loan debt. So I'm going to pass it over now to Secretary Cardona.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Thank you, President Johnson, Senator Schumer, Senator Warren, for this invitation, and more importantly, for your fierce advocacy for these students, you know, the passion with which you lead around this topic in particular. Students are so fortunate and blessed to have you in their corner. So thank you for your advocacy. You've asked for this meeting even before I was sworn in, I think, and it just shows your commitment to our students. And I really do appreciate that. And I can assure you, to the students, you know, I'm going to be very brief with my comments because I really want to get to you. I really want to listen. I want to hear your stories. I too am a first-gen college student. So I had to navigate that, didn't understand it well, didn't come from wealth at all. And I recognize the challenges, you know, having to make decisions around, you know, utilities, basic stuff in college. And we should never be in a place in this country where some people can't make life decisions because they owe so much money. It's personal to me. I want to hear your stories. I want to make sure that the decisions that we make as an agency are guided by what's happening. We've done some things, you know, we've done some loan. I'm not even going to go through the list of things that we've done at this point to help borrowers, because I know we could do more. And I don't want to spend time talking about what we did. I want to hear what's happening with you and how we can better serve you. So with that, I'm going to cut my comments short and just say that this is an event today to listen, but we're just starting this work, and I look forward to supporting you and thinking about your stories as we make decisions at the agency. Thank you, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Secretary Cardoza. And, you know, much of this is about real people and real lives. It is not about elected officials or advocates or organizations. It's about real people. And that's why I'm glad to be a part of this discussion. And I want to introduce Sabrina, who is a first-generation American and a proud first-generation college student. Sabrina, please share with us your story.
I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to be here and to share my story. So my name is Sabrina Calazans. I'm a first-generation Brazilian American from Long Island, New York, and I'm a college graduate. Yes, Chuck Schumer, a fellow New Yorker. I graduated from Arcadia University in 2019 with a bachelor's degree in international studies. And shortly after graduation, I wasn't able to find anything in my career field. So I worked at a summer camp, and I worked in temporary office jobs around the city. After the grace period ended for student loans, I had to defer my loans because I wasn't able to pay for them. I also have a mixture of federal and private loans, so that was even more challenging. I received a few job offers, but for me, it was really difficult to accept them because it would require me to relocate, and I wouldn't have been able to pay for my rent and to pay for other bills and student loans on top of all of that. And then shortly after, the pandemic hit, so that was an even bigger challenge to finding a job. So while I'm really grateful for the federal pause on student loan payments, I think that a lot more needs to be done, and we're very worried about what's going to happen afterwards. According to Pew Research, 49% of Latinos say that they or a family member have lost a job due to COVID, have lost a job or have taken a pay cut because in comparison to the national average, which is 33%. Black and Latina women also have the slowest debt repayment rate out of student borrowers, and Latina women also make less money than their white counterparts within an already existing gender wage gap in the system. So I think it's really important that broad-based debt cancellation would empower women, it would empower communities of color, and it would empower low-income families and millions of Americans. Being a Brazilian American, we have a very strong sense of community. It's part of our identity. As you know, Latinos are, we're very social, we're very engaging. So for me, I like to reach out within the local churches, and I like to reach out to high school students who are about to enter college to kind of mentor them, guide them with the process, because I never had someone to do that for me being first gen. So I know that student loans is a burden on a lot of first gen, on a lot of people who don't have access to resources, to help, to tutors, to things like that. So for me, it's a very big deal. And I think that broad-based debt cancellation would help ease the burden on many families, including mine. It would help to allow people to pursue their dreams. There's millions of people who can't start families, who can't move, who can't, who don't have independence to make their financial decisions. So for me personally, I would be able to get a car. I would be able to relocate for a job opportunity, seeing that I'm unemployed at the current moment. So this is not just about me, but this is about people having peace of mind, having financial freedoms, and to have the ability to just live a life that is, dignified, a life where they're not struggling, where they have, time to enjoy, time with their family. I think that life is much more than just working and paying our bills. There's so much more to it. So with that, I want to thank you again for the opportunity and for being able to share my story.
Thank you, Sabrina. Obrigado. Did I get it right? Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
de nada.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you, Sabrina. And I can't wait to hear your Senate testimony. You have a senator from New York. He's really powerful if you ever get the chance to meet him. Just
Yes,
know
he
that,
is.
right? But inspiring story. Next, I'm going to ask Daryl Holman, who is a graduate of Eastern Michigan University in the big city of Ypsilanti. Like many African-American borrowers, Daryl had to take out more debt than most students. So Daryl, please share with us your story.
Hey everyone, I want to thank everyone for their time here today. I'll just hop right into it. I went to college because growing up, we were always taught that a college degree was the key to a better life. And with that in mind, I went to Eastern Michigan University, where I earned a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in public administration with a focus on nonprofit management and public affairs. While in school, I was also president of my youth in college NAACP chapter, so it's good to see extended family on the road.
Good for you.
As proud of those accomplishments as I am, it landed me with over $97,000 in student debt. I left school in 2016 and moved to New York City, where I began work with nonprofits and groups dedicated to building wealth in Black communities. During school, I had to work for the Ypsilanti Ann Arbor Black Chamber of Commerce, so I was able to hit the ground running with the Harlem Business Alliance. It was there where I was able to help single mothers, people who were formerly incarcerated, and people of color interested in technology to start their own businesses. Unfortunately, nonprofit work does not pay very well, especially for someone living in New York City with the extra burden of student loan debt. So I went on to create my own design firm, where I work with organizations like the National Urban League, one of over 300 groups urging the Biden administration to cancel student debt by executive action. The reality is, on average, a degree on a Black resume does not yield the same returns as the same degree on a white one. And like many other Black borrowers, I had to take on more debt to access education. This has led to me to feeling like I'm out of options. Because my debt total was so large, it was overwhelming and easier to ignore at times, especially when getting my career started was kind of like my sole focus. And so like after a while, it became clear that ignoring it wasn't going to be sustainable. And 2020 was actually the year I was going to get active. But that wasn't going to get me anywhere either. This year, I would have had to pay over $14K in interest alone. So more than $1,000 a month to stay in the same optionless situation. Cancellation of my debt would mean that actually having a chance at owning a home in the near future. And the pause on payments has been helpful, but it does nothing to lift the continuous burden I had in all of this debt. Small fixes to the current system won't help me. It'll just mean me being in marginally less debt for the rest of my life. I support full cancellation because that'll allow me to start investing in a home, a family, and the future that I went to college in search of. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl.
I was on mute there. So Daryl, are you from Ypsilanti? Where are you from originally?
So I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan, but I went to school in Ypsilanti, and then of course I live in Harlem now, so very excited about that.
So you also have a very powerful senator. Just know that. I just want to make sure y'all know you got powerful senators here, right? So it's encouraging to hear your story and Sabrina's story, because two things you all said that can stimulate the economy. You want to be able to purchase a car, purchase a home, be fully engaged in our economy. That can stimulate the economy. So that is good to hear. Taneva Monroe.
Wait, Derek, one other thing, one other reason to cancel student debt, so Daryl can stay in New York.
Well, I won't fight you there. I won't fight you there. So, it is a great opportunity for us to really explore how do we stimulate the economy. Student loan debt cancellation also allow for people to be mobile economically and add value to the economy, but especially individuals like Daryl, who's advocating not only for student debt cancellation, but for people to build wealth in a nonprofit frame. So Taneva, also African-American, first-generation single parent who attended UMass Amherst between 2005 and 2009. I can only imagine how much.
I'm seeing a theme here. To New York, we got Massachusetts.
Look, Mr. Secretary, that's called power, right? That's called power here, right? So it's really important that Taneva speak as a single parent and first generation, going to a very prestigious school at UMass Amherst, and I can only imagine the type of debt burden that she's struggling with. Taneva, let's hear your story here.
Thank you very much, Derek, and thank you to everyone here on the call. It's a pleasure and honor to speak with you today. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you. As you mentioned, I'm a single mother. Originally came to this country as a dreamer from Trinidad and Tobago, and as a Black immigrant girl to a very low income family. Like most, we were trying to build a better future for our lives. Now, fast forward to, like you said, 2005, where I had the opportunity to attend college and become the first generation college graduate in 2010. And at that point in my story, things are pretty good. I had a very good education, very great experience. However, it soon became eclipsed by false promises of better employability, job placements, and good pay upwards of $40,000, because you know what, the truth is it didn't happen. And like a lot of what's happening now to postgraduates, shockingly even now, I couldn't secure a full-time job with good pay. I'm sure most can recall 2010 was in the midst of our last economic downturn. So it wasn't uncommon that I saw a lack of job offers, or job offers really being rescinded with little to no alternative pathways. So here I am, unemployed with increasing debt and no way to pay it back. Majority students like myself made an educational investment and took out student loans with the promise that our degree would be a guarantee for a return on investment, if you will, or to have more than favorable chances of securing a good job with good pay. However, I did not see that. What I did see were severe impacts, a whole lot of emotional and financial distress, feeling really just worse off than when I started. I felt targeted, still feel targeted, tricked, triggered, cheated by predatory lending industries. Essentially, to me, it felt like a cover-up. Student loan debt with educational investment as a false pretense. I was really feeling worthless and worse off than when I started. And that just, adds to the emotional distress. And the financial distress really kind of continued on to my family in terms of their personal credit being affected, unable to qualify for credit card, simple things like credit cards, or even to be able to refinance on their home. Also in terms of myself, it really impaired my financial stability in regards to the Treasury offset program, where my income tax was offset. And so it's so unfortunate. It's extremely debilitating. Thankfully, I mean, this wasn't true in the recent year because of student loan payment pause and suspension. And I mean, that's helpful and it's a temporary fix. But we need long-term care, which is cancellation, student debt cancellation. And I also want to just say it's important to note that my story isn't unique. And instead, it's sadly a common thread amongst a vast majority of borrowers, which is really unfortunate and very sad. Thank you.
No, thank you. And I can assure you, your story isn't unusual. My wife is a bankruptcy attorney, and she oftentimes sees clients and where she's able to help them with most of their hardship. Student loan debt is the most difficult thing to discharge.
Especially in bankruptcy.
Yeah, and as a result of that, you have people who are operating as a permanent financial second-class citizen. So thank you for sharing your story, because your story is the story of many people across the country. Next, we have Kendrick Harrison. Kendrick is a veteran, father of 5. Congratulations, Kendrick. I'm also a father of 5. Kendrick came back from his military service in 2016 and was looking to find a path to gain education and better employment, only to find himself trapped in student loan debt. Kendrick, please share with us your story.
Hello, Senator Warren, Senator Schumer and Secretary Cardona. My name is Kendrick Harrison. I'm a military veteran, an entrepreneur, and father. I'm also a former Advocacy University student. Prior to pursuing my college education, I was a highly decorated combat veteran. I joined the military when I was 17 years old. I was shipped out shortly after my 18th birthday. From there, I spent a year in Korea, then to Fort Lewis, Washington, where I was deployed to Iraq. Going back to college was always a dream and a goal of mine, as well as a promise to my dearly departed grandfather. It just seemed like prior to 2016, I didn't have the time or the ability. By the time I was deployed to Iraq, I was already married with kids. And for the longest time, I believed that I had traded that opportunity to serve in the armed forces. In 2016, my life was just in the right spot where getting my degree would elevate me to the next level. I started my quest for a college degree online. In a quick search, I found a university called Advocacy. Unfortunately for me, that's where my nightmare, the nightmare of my dealings with Dream Center education begins. I hope you all know that for veterans like me, we serve our country, but for-profit colleges target us. They lie to us. Congress has finally got the 90-10 loophole closed, but there's still 2 years of delay for for-profit colleges to continue to defraud us. As a country, I think we need to make sure that the for-profit industry never preys on another veteran. Since Advocacy, my life has been in a great deal of turmoil and financial strife. As a direct result of Advocacy University and Dream Center education, my life, my family and I were evicted. We were made homeless. My credit score dropped over 100 points. My car was repossessed. My oldest daughter's car was repossessed. And honestly, me and my family are still, to this day, trying to recover from all the damage caused by Advocacy and Dream Center. I applied for a borrower's defense discharge when Secretary B. Voss was in office, but my borrower's defense application was denied. Even though it was strong, I had some of the best nonprofit organizations and lawyers to help me fill out the forms and finalize everything. And it seems like she just rejected it flat out. Since then, my student loans were closed. I had a few student loans closed through PTD discharge, but the pain from my experience still follows me to this day. I was brave when I joined the military at 17, and I was courageous when I was ordered to go to war. I only ask now that our leaders in government be just as brave and just as courageous when they take up these issues and defend citizens of this nation from organizations like Dream Center that seek to take advantage of young college students and veterans like myself who have served the country honorably.
You know, Kendrick,
Thank you.
thank you for sharing your story. Your story is real. I have heard many veterans and actually individuals who are currently in the military that suffered through the same reality. Unfortunately, with this new Senate and Leader Schumer, we can make some headway. I can recall when predatory lenders would post up right outside the military gate and have just outrageous payday loans. And under a different Senate leadership, the Senate changed that and stopped that from happening. And we're going to work hard to do the same for people situated like you, because it is unconscionable that we ask individuals to go put their life at risk and come home only to be suffering under the crushing effects of student loans. So I want to transition now to open it up for discussion. Leader Schumer, Senator Warren, Secretary Cardona, any questions?
Well, I just would like to ask, thank you for these amazing presentations. And here's what fills my heart. You each have so much potential, not only for yourselves, but for families, if you have them now or in the future, and for our country. And this debt is preventing you from going forward on that future in so many different ways: economic, financial, family, and even emotional and personal, where you just can't get. So, I mean, my question is sort of, I guess when you started college, each of you, you had so much hope about the future. And now that hope has sort of been dashed. If we canceled the $50,000 in student debt, could you return to that idea of hope and potential, and I can get done what I want to get done to make a good life for myself? It touches me to hear your stories. Who wants to answer that? Go ahead, Kendrick, you're shaking your head.
Okay. Well, Senator, I think that for me, in my case, what was taken from me was so much more than financial.
Right.
I think the only thing that I would ask of our leaders and you guys is that we make sure that this doesn't happen. There doesn't have to be another Harrison family. I mean, we can fix this. I mean, we're at a time right now with the leadership and the willpower that we can change this. That there doesn't have to be another Kendrick Harrison, another Taneva. I mean, we can really do something here. We're at a magical time where this can go away. Yes, canceling the student loan debt is going to help a lot of people. It's going to, especially a lot of Black and brown people and a lot of veterans like myself. But we've got to fix the industry as a whole. That the link between trust and the system has been broken through these actions, and we've got to go back and try to reconfigure our
These are leeches. These are leeches.
From
These people are leeches, what they did to you, and we got to not allow them to ever do it again.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Do you have something to say about that, Sabrina? What I mentioned, how this debt gets into your head and just screws everything up.
Yeah, so I graduated in 2019, and I was super hopeful that, you know, everyone says it takes about 6 months to a year for you to be able to find a job. But like Daryl mentioned, entering into nonprofit work and being able to pay all your bills is almost impossible, especially in New York. So I have a lot of hope. I mean, my dreams are to advance on gender equity issues as well as racial equity in higher education, especially in the study abroad department. That was something that really attracted me to my university, was the study abroad department. And I had the opportunity to go through scholarships and things like that. But there are lots of people who don't have access to that, who don't know how to even get started. So for me, it's about empowering people, but it was hard to empower others when I wasn't feeling very empowered myself. It was all that I could think about. Student loans, how could I, pay for them? How could I, make a difference? I feel like I'm not making a difference in my community. I feel like I'm not making a difference, with anything at times. But I know that this is a hopeful time. This is a time for change. This is a time where we're advocating for our brothers and sisters, for our communities, for millions of Americans. It's not just millennials. It's not just, young people, because over 6 million people between the ages of 50 and 64 are still paying their student loan debt off till this day. People are getting money taken out of their Social Security to pay off for their student loans. I think that's ridiculous. I feel like people shouldn't be worrying about student loans 20 years after they've graduated from college. That's something that needs to change. And so I think that that's where I stand on this. I think that we definitely need broad-based debt cancellation, and we need to advocate for change, especially when it comes to interest rates, when it comes to these lenders. So yeah.
I want to follow up on what you said, Sabrina, and what Leader Schumer was talking about. And that is, just for a minute, you think about what would happen if your student loan debt went away. I like your face on that one, Kendrick. Just think about, if you didn't have any student loan debt, what would you do differently in your life over the next 6 months, over the next year? What would be different for you? And you've told us what you would do, and that's terrific, Sabrina. Anybody else want to jump in on this one? Give us an idea. Taneva, do you have?
Yeah.
Tell us about how your life would be different.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I mean, as a parent, it just means a whole lot less of weight on me, especially, as a parent, you just have so much responsibility, and you want to make the legacy, or basically what's coming next, better for your family. And so it just alleviates so much stress, so much pain. As I mentioned with you, Derek, it's even hard to get rid of student loan debt in bankruptcy. This is the only debt that is pretty much irremovable, even after death, which is horrible. I would hate to leave that burden with my daughter. I mean, the amount of stress that I already go through, I would hate to know that she would have to go through that as well. Like Kendrick said, in terms of, $50,000, I mean, that's okay, but it means so much more. I mean, when you tally in all of the emotional distress, it's just so much. And much like you, Kendrick, my daughter and I, we experienced homelessness as part of the snowball effect from just coming out of college and not being able to secure good work with good pay. The financial damages is long stemming. It's so far long stemming, and it just has to stop. Like, Kendrick said, I mean, we don't want those coming after us to experience the same thing, even though we're seeing the same signs, really. And like Sabrina, you said, I mean, I currently work with a nonprofit to really empower women regarding financial stability, because a lot of that information isn't given before, getting a loan. I mean, they don't even check your credit, but all after the fact, it's on your credit report, and it's reporting, 7, 8 different ways, and just bringing down your points. And it just sucks, because when you're trying to own a home, it hurts you because of your credit. And then in my case, after experiencing homelessness, having that on your record, more insult to injury, unfortunately.
Yeah. I appreciate you raising this, because I think what you're showing, Taneva, and I think you made this point too, Daryl, it's the generational effect, that if you had your college diploma but no debt, then you'd be in a better position for your daughter, and to be able to strengthen her and lift her up as she goes forward, both as a child and as she gets ready for school. I think that, Kendrick, you talked about your daughter losing her car because you were struggling with your own student loan debt after you'd gotten cheated by a for-profit college. But I think the generational effects of this, it means it hits you, but it hits the next group and the next group and the next group. And I think that's a powerful point. And I appreciate your raising this, Taneva. I think that's really important.
And when I'm listening to you, all four of you, I'm inspired, but I'm also frustrated at how there are people who make a living preying off, selling you hopes and dreams and catching you, especially first gen folks. And what I heard from you, Sabrina, is you want to move on. You want to buy a car. You want to keep going. You want to help others. And this is holding you down. Daryl, the systemic barriers that were set up very intentionally to prey on you, you're feeling that now, and it's preventing you from doing what you want to do. And you seem like you're such a great person. You have so much to do, but this is a cloud hanging over your head. And Taneva, your story really just illustrates the generational impact, as Senator Warren said. But also, you brought up something that I think we don't talk about enough: the emotional and social, like the emotional impact puts you in a bad spot. It's hard to get out of that because you have that weight. So it's a generational impact of distress, is what you called it. And then Kendrick, I couldn't help but get frustrated. We should be having your back when you serve and you put your life on the line with five children. You're putting your life on the line for us. And when you come back here, you're taking advantage of it. You're being, taken advantage of by I don't even want to call it a college. Those are the feelings that's what I heard here. And I appreciate you sharing your vulnerability, being vulnerable to share the story, because behind every case, there's a family, there's a person, there's a story that is important for me to know. And I have a question for you, but I'm going to be very selfish here. Consider teaching, we need you. Consider teaching, we need you. The question I have, though, is in loan forgiveness, I heard that loud and clear today. And yes, I'm listening. We're working on how we can support you more than with the things we've done that might not have touched you yet. But as Secretary of Education, I'm starting off right now. What do you want me to know so that I could do my job better and make sure this agency supports you better?
I'll take that one. For me, I know a lot of my peers here, they actually completed and got their degree. So having that degree and then being able to relieve that student loan debt and go forward is great. But in my case, I was 3 months from graduation when Argosy closed their doors. I had spent over 3.5 years, fighting tooth and nail for this degree, for them to pull it under the rug, pull the rug from up under me 3 months before graduation. I had graduation parties planned. I had, a whole career plan, and it was just up in smoke in hours, So my thing is that one thing I would do, especially when we're talking about student loan debt, is make sure that the money, if I'm borrowing money, give the money to me. Let me pay the school. Don't send it directly to the school and have them, handle it with their, internal finances. If I owe a bill, I'm going to owe the debt. Send the money to me, allow me to pay the school. Because in my case, if I would have had that option, I wouldn't have given Argosy, that money. They were already negligent so far into our dealings that I would have already said, no, I'm not paying you until I get a quality education. Well, in this case, the current configuration, that's not feasible. The money gets sent straight to the school. Even my GI Bill benefits got sent directly to the school. I called the VA when the school was closed and said, hey, they're due to pull more of my benefits. Please don't send them. And the VA said, well, you know what, Kendrick, it's a delay in the system. We haven't got a note that says that they're closed. So if they ask for it, we're going to send it. And they sent it. And then the VA sent me a bill saying, hey, you know what? We overpaid Argosy in excess of $2,500, and you owe us for that. So, the system itself has to be reconfigured, that the power comes back in the hands of the borrower.
Thank you.
Any
others want to share? I know we're short on time, but I'd love to hear more.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Taneva.
I did want to chime in. I think at the latter of what you're saying, Kendrick, what came to mind is the accountability. Accountability is the biggest thing, because it was very stressful having conversation with lenders, because a lot of the times as a borrower, you're doing what you're supposed to do, seeking out forgiveness or different programs in order to resolve the debt. Because at the end of the day, as a borrower, you are trying to do that. However, for whatever reason, lenders aren't helpful. I don't know if they're not well versed on the program or what it is. They're not helpful in terms of giving a clear path to resolution and just showing up on their end of the bargain. You said that you were going to perform whatever service or do whatever act, do that. And so there's definitely some oversight that's needed, because I've gone through pages of manuals and things of that sort in regards to what I'm supposed to do as a borrower, and I have no direction. And one example as well is I was able to go through settlement for my private loans. And within months of paying it off, I mean, I crossed my T's and dotted my I's. They came back and recollected on that debt, which is a violation of the Fair Collections Reporting Act, right? And thank God for the advocacy through the National Consumer Law Center, who backed me in court for this, but they would have recollected on that debt. So I paid them off and they came back and wanted to collect another $6,000 and reported it to the credit bureaus. Whereas I already had something in writing saying that I would pay off the debt and that it would be removed, closed from the books. They reopened it. So the issue of accountability is serious here, and there needs to be much better accountability and just moral responsibility. Do the right thing.
Derek, I know we have to close, but what this does is it shows this is not a lot of numbers. $1.7 trillion, 20 million people. This is each person with amazing potential that we can make a whole lot better. We can make your lives a whole lot better and have you have good futures, better futures than you would with this debt, and it'll be better for the whole country. Mm-hmm. So this I can speak for myself. I'm sure I could. This gives me even more strength and energy to get this done. Yeah. Just hearing what you had to say bravely and courageously and candidly, you're great. You give me faith in the future of the country if we straighten the damn country out.
So, Senator Warren, did you want to have any closing remarks before we transition?
So yes, am I on? There we go. I just want to say thank you to all four of you for showing up, for telling your stories. I'm really grateful. It takes a lot of courage to stand up and to talk about debt and to talk about how it's impacted your life in the present and to think about how it continues to affect it in the future. You are the reason that Senator Schumer and I have given this fight everything we've got and why we're going to keep giving it everything we've got. We have the capacity as a nation to forgive this debt, to cancel this debt, and to help you put your lives back on track. Now is the time to cancel $50,000 in student loan debt. And I'm grateful to you for talking, and I hope you'll be in this fight with us all the way. Thank you.
So Sabrina, Daryl, Taneva, Kendrick, you probably don't recognize the power that's on this Zoom conversation. To have Leader Schumer, Senator Warren, and Secretary Cardona is huge. It is so profound. But I hope I can sum it up. I heard the need to strengthen consumer protection around student loan debt. I heard congressional act to cancel $50,000 in debt. I believe there is an administrative fix that needs to be put in place with the public service student loan program, because two of you work for nonprofits which will qualify. And it's clear that the military student loan forgiveness program needs to tighten up as well, in addition to addressing the for-profit profiteers that exploited the loophole under previous administrations. That's what I hear, and I could be wrong. I'm just a fellow who lived in Mississippi. but this is an opportunity for us to do right so many of you and many more people across the country can do good. Let's stimulate our economy and cancel this debt.
And Derek, I just want to thank Secretary Cardona for making the time here. And I know that you will take back these moving, wonderful stories to the whole administration.
Definitely. And just in closing, Senator Schumer, Senator Warren, thank you for this invitation. You've been advocating for this call for months now. Derek, thank you for facilitating it. And, you know, students, listen, you're sharing your story helps, as they said, create a picture of what this is. When we hear numbers and we have things listed, it's your story, it's your family story that we're fighting for here. I'm gonna make sure that somebody from my office calls each one of you to see, because it seems to me that, you know, there might be something available. I can't understand. We've canceled 99% of the public service loan forgiveness applications. How is that possible? There's work to be done. I'm committed to it. Your stories are going to strengthen my resolve to do as much as I can to support you and students like you. So thank you for sharing. I'll have somebody from my office try to get more information to see if there's something we could do in terms of what qualifications now or what you should be thinking about. It seems like you've done everything under the sun already, and it just seems like the system's not helping you. So that's the message I'm taking today, and I'm committed to supporting you and students like you. So thank you again for your story and your testimony.
Thank you.
Have a great night,
Take
everyone.
care, everyone. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Godspeed.
Bye.
Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.